So I've just spent the past 5 days in solitude, spending 5 days alone in my apartment, just sitting with my thoughts and my feelings and observing my thoughts like they were putting on a show and I was just part of the audience, and coming from a place of curiosity rather than indulging in them and using them to feel bad or sad or angry or fearful. And it's really good practice to just watch the thoughts and go, okay, interesting. And during these 5 days, I connected with my spirit guides in the spirit realm and sat in meditation, and they said, you think that death is a bad thing. And the medium part of me knows that there is no end, there is no death, right? It's just a series of transitions. We transition or transform from spirit into matter, and then we transition or transform from matter back into spirit, and we return to the spirit realm, which is our home. But they weren't speaking to the part of me that is a medium. They were speaking to the part of me that is human, and the part of me that's attached to my loved ones, right? And so I got to reflect on this. I got to reflect on, okay, do I think that death is a bad thing? And, well, they're telling me this, so I get to reflect on that. And I started thinking that it's probably true that we think that death is a bad thing. As a society, we think death is a bad thing, and we don't accept death. We dread it, and we wish for a peaceful death in our sleep, pain-free, right? We don't accept death the way we accept birth and life. And I got to really sit with the human part of me and have this conversation with myself about transitions. You know, a lot of times people don't want to be happy, they don't want to get excited, they don't want to get into relationships, they don't want to commit, they don't, because things will end, or they feel hopeless and powerless. What's the point? Because things will end. And it dawned on me that, what if nothing ends? What if everything is just a transition? We transition into relationships and out of relationships. We transition from one chapter into another chapter, from one experience into another experience. We transition from one life into another life. And when we use the word transition, it is easier to accept the cycle of life, which involves death. And I got to really question, why do I think that death is a bad thing? And if it was such a negative experience, then why does it exist? And I speak to spirits, and I know from what they tell me that they're actually quite happy, they're quite fulfilled. And I know this on a soul level, but I guess as a human, as a being that is vibrating at a frequency that turns me into matter, because I am vibrating matter, right? There is an attachment to matter, there is an attachment to the material. And I guess that is also part of the human experience, to know what it's like to become attached to matter. But there's a reason why my guides and the spirits told me you believe that death is bad, because obviously there's a part of me that does believe it. I'm not saying that we shouldn't mourn, that we shouldn't grieve, that we shouldn't feel sad, that we shouldn't miss people, right? But I think sometimes we can become addicted to the grief and to the sadness, and it stops us from living our lives. And if I were to see everything as a transition, it makes it easier to accept, right? Life, death, recycle, reincarnation. The spirit is continuous and it carries on. And when we transition out of the physical realm, there are an infinite amount of parallel selves that are still living and continue to live. So what is it that we're really afraid of? What is it that we reject and find difficult in death? And of course, I'm not saying that murder is okay or persecution is okay. I'm not saying be okay with suicide. I'm not saying that it's okay to be tortured, right? I'm not talking about how we die and the ways that people die, but I'm just talking about death in itself is not actually a bad or negative thing. So there's something to contemplate. Transitions.